fired up. It's made a great decision.
Great teammates, coaches, and other people who want to be Super Bowl champions. And we are. We're going to do it this year.
And we're going places because we want to go places.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another All-22 look for the Detroit Lions, and today we are diving into the offensive side of the ball for the Lions against the Dallas Cowboys, and specifically this passing attack. What's going wrong with the Lions passing game? We do remember that this was the top scoring offense in the National Football League before the Patriots game, and then it fell to like 5th, and then now I'm sure it's further than that after only scoring 6 points. So we're going to dive into this game specifically, take a look at the impact of certain guys that we're missing defensively, what teams are doing against the Lions, but also we have faced two pretty darn good defenses, specifically this last one in Dallas, one of the best pass defenses in football, so it's a little bit understandable. And we'll take a look at how the Lions can try to get things back on track. We're also probably going to do a defensive video as well because the Lions have changed some things up schematically, specifically against the run in their front seven, just how they're lining up technique-wise and what they're asking of players. We saw Jeff Okudah have a huge day. He had 13 tackles. I think it was 13, right? Aiden Hutchinson had a fantastic day as well. So Josh Paschal's debut. A lot of things to take a look at the defensive side. But this video is about the offense and that passing attack. So that's what we're going to dive into in today's video. Let's get into it. Let's just dive right into it. We will show a couple of run plays as well, but not a ton. It's mainly, again, going to be the focus of our passing game. But this first one is a run play that I do want to showcase. This is a 3rd down and 7 where Jared Goff made an audible at the line of scrimmage. The Lions went to a run play, and we saw it live, and we're like, what the heck was that? Looking back on it, clearly, it looked like something was messed up. It looked like they were on different pages with this run play. But yes, this was the first 3rd down. The play before this was the fumble where Jamal Williams had it kicked out of his hand. So 3rd and 7, not a spot you want to be in against this team. It's a top 10 3rd down defense. But on top of that, when it's 3rd and long, it's even more difficult. I couldn't find the exact numbers by distance, but I do know that they have a fantastic pass rush between Micah Parsons, between Sam Williams, who had a big game. So they have a lot of guys that can get after the quarterback. And then on top of that, in coverage, they're not too bad either. Specifically, Trayvon Diggs is kind of a problem. We saw that in this game. So we're going to take a look at this first play, though, because this is a run play, and this halted our first drive offensively. So let's go back a little bit. Jared Goff audible to this run. We've seen them do this. So I wasn't mad at the moment, like, oh, why did the Lions audible to a run? I wasn't mad at it because we've seen them do this where they get in 3rd downs. Basically, I think they're counting numbers, and they're like, all right, we got the numbers, let's go to this. And this one was interesting because it kind of gives me Seattle vibes of what the Lions may have been trying to do, but what they actually didn't really make sense. I'll show you what I mean. So Jared Goff makes an audible. I can't tell you exactly what he's trying to get the play to, but he moves his running back to the right, which you would think that they're going to run the ball left. Usually that's how you do it. I mean, you can still run it right, but usually that's what happens. But something was messed up here. Jared Goff handed this off as if it was a run left, and what you're going to see is Evan Brown, who is the right guard, is going to pull front. He's going to pull out here. All right, he's going to pull to the side of the line of scrimmage that he's already on. He's not pulling and lead blocking to the left, which would make sense. If Evan Brown was pulling left and the Lions were trying to get an extra number over here, it would be somewhat similar to kind of the Seattle game, because if you count the numbers just by the hash mark where the Lions are on the left hash, 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course the receiver and DB, so we'll just kind of take them out of it. You have 4 defenders versus 1, 2, 3, 4 offensive linemen and potentially a pulling offensive lineman with a ball carrier. So just by counting the numbers, you could look at that and say, okay, if they pull an offensive lineman, they might have a shot to pick this up. But what it looks like is the offensive line is going the opposite way, and Jared Goff is handing Craig Reynolds to go to the left. Let's take a look. It looks very strange. You'll see what I mean here. All right, we'll pause it if it doesn't glitch out. So you can see what I'm saying. Evan Brown pulls to the right. Jared Goff hands this off left. Now, I'm doubting that Jared Goff is changing this to, hey, let me make a quarterback keeper, foul this pulling offensive line, and go. Okay, I would doubt that's what this is. It could be, a counter, but it definitely doesn't look like it. Craig didn't run this like a counter. So you're having Decker block as if he's just the backside, but that's where Craig is running the football. So clearly this is messed up, all right? Clearly the offensive line looks like they believe this is supposed to go right, and Goff is handing it off left. So there's confusion here, and as you can see, basically they don't even block on this side, but that's clearly something was messed up on that play. Now we're going to take a look at mainly the pass plays again in this video. One thing that you do notice watching it back, the Lions did a lot of 12 personnel because of some of the weapons. They didn't have DJ Chark. This is the second straight week without DJ Chark. Now we know he's on IR, so he's going to be missing more time, which is a big loss for the Lions. It is a massive loss. Now, a big part of it as well is that Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? You have a guy like St. Brown who went down to the first quarter. We'll take a look at that. So now you're losing one of those guys that you feel like could probably win a majority of their matchups. So then you're leaning on guys like TJ Hawkinson to consistently win their matchups, right? You're just lowering the number of those type of players. Now, up to really New England game, a lot of teams played zone against the Lions. But starting with New England, because the Patriots are a man-heavy team, they continue to do that. They continue to play man-heavy against us, and we didn't have Chark in that game, which is sort of an issue because the Lions have some solid receivers. Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, I like Khalif a lot. St. Brown. Don't have guys that consistently just win one-on-one, and that's basically how DJ Chark worded it, is that it doesn't really matter what route he has. If he's out there one-on-one, he's going to win that matchup. And that's kind of what DJ Chark was for the Lions. Now, I think long-term wise, Jameson Williams is the vision for that. Jameson Williams is the vision that this could be our number one. That's why we trade up to get him. He could be that elite number one that a lot of really good teams have, is just that guy that you say, it doesn't really matter what you do. If he's one-on-one, I'm throwing the ball there. Like, it could just be as simple as that. And the Lions, without Chark, are kind of back a little bit more to not having that. And then once they lose St. Brown in this game, now you're looking at basically last year's receiving core of Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, no Quintez Cephas, so it's actually almost less. Well, it's kind of is like last year's, this towards the end there. Khalif Raymond, Tom Kennedy, right? TJ Hawkinson, no DeAndre Swift. So your receiving options are very limited, right? So Hawkinson became a very focal point of this Lions offense. They did a lot of 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends. They mixed in some 13, so we got to see some James Mitchell. That's 3 tight ends. We'll take a look at this one early. St. Brown is playing at this point in the game, and this one is just going to be a check down. Lions do this a lot, so I thought I'd just start with it, right? Okay, play action. It's a zone coverage drop, cover 2 drop for the defense, and Goff's going to check it down to Craig Reynolds. This one's pretty simple. They make this simple. It's an easy one, but it's really nice. We do this one a lot. Basically, you just kind of look to one side of the field. You can almost cut the field in half if they drop in the zone, which they do here. Hey, look, if the cornerback's getting depth, taking this away, I'll check it down. If he plays really aggressive underneath on Craig Reynolds, okay, he jumps up, I can throw it to this corner route. But in this play, usually the cornerback gets depth because that's the route that breaks out first, and then Craig Reynolds is open. This is a pick of 11 yards. It's an easy play for the Lions. A lot of it's set up through play action when they can do that. And play action, as we know, earlier in the season was a very dominant part of the Lions' attack because not only could they run the ball, and they were the best rushing team in football, which I don't know if that still stands. I would doubt it, but it's probably pretty close. But the Lions were running the ball extremely well, but they also had guys like DJ Chark on the outside who were very threatening to defenses because he could just blow by you. And even when he wasn't getting the ball, that's threatening to have a guy like that with Josh Reynolds on the outside. And Josh is now your number 2, not your number 1. It really shifts the focus of the defense. And still early in this game, we'll take a look at another one. Again, I didn't realize how involved TJ Hawkinson was actually in this game until I rewatched it, so I apologize for that. Here's one of those examples of 13 personnel, tight end, tight end, tight end. You got 3 tight ends. James Mitchell's in line here. All right, and they're going to put TJ in the slot. So, again, they're looking for matchups, guys they feel like can consistently win, also against their matchups. So, in this game, for example, you have a guy like Trayvon Diggs, who the Lions tested, and he picked it off. We'll take a look at that one. But Diggs is he's really darn good, okay? And you just saw how athletic he was before you came into this game, and then you watch him, you're like, dude, this guy's tough. All right, so very athletic. They did some disguise coverage as well. So I don't think a lot of times they wanted to test that guy necessarily. But they were trying to find matchups, and one guy that they went after was TJ Hawkinson if they could get him one-on-one. In this case, Jaron Kearse, they attacked that when they had the matchup. You get man coverage, he motions over left, and this one's pretty simple. You're just getting an out route here from TJ Hawkinson. Goff throws it before he turns. Is this thing going to load? I don't know. Let's see if we can play that again. Let's try it one more time. Hopefully it doesn't glitch out. For some reason, this thing just likes to freeze. I don't know why, but you'll see it here as he breaks. Maybe you won't see it. He throws it as he breaks, puts it on him. We'll try to get the other angle of it, but it's a very simple route here, okay? And now one thing you did notice, as blurry as this is, this won't be as blurry going forward. Dallas played a lot of their off-ball linebackers in zone underneath, so that's something the Lions had to kind of adapt to as the game went on, which you saw they had some beaters for that. One really big one, which was awesome, but they play a lot of zone underneath. Basically, they kind of pass off routes. Anything that crosses underneath, they like to pass them off. Very athletic linebackers, but here you get a pure one-on-one. A lot of times, I think that was kind of noticeable just by how Jaron Kearse lined up. If Jaron would follow or match up straight across from TJ, usually it got man coverage, so that was sometimes a tell, and in this case, it was. I think sometimes we could have done better using that tell, but this one's pretty simple. Big first down completion. I think it was like 11 yards on that play. I'll show this play really quickly, but the Lions were doing this on their second drive a lot as well, stacking receivers, and you would usually get, especially if they were in man coverage, but even if they were in zone, but you would usually get is one cornerback would give a lot of depth. So now it's kind of like a 2-on-1 that you could create. Again, a lot of their linebackers would play inside the box, so they would do a lot of these quick screens. They did one here. This picked up 8 yards on this play. Then you come a couple plays later, which is actually the play that St. Brown is taken out of the game, which is a 4-yard pickup. Lions do something similar. They stack the receivers. You can see how one cornerback is giving a lot of cushion. Similar thing here, quick screen. They end up getting the offensive lineman involved, tunnel screen, and that's the play where Hockenson goes down. You can see him shake his head. They called him concussion protocol. It sounds like they're thinking that St. Brown is in a good spot, and it sounds like he might actually get to play this weekend. I don't know, but it's going to be very important to have a guy like St. Brown, because if the Lions aren't going to go out and acquire another receiver, when you're not good, everybody says seller, seller, seller. I get it, but at the same time, again, there's still something to prove for me with this regime, and it's definitely something I would look into, unless I feel good about St. Brown coming back. Now, if St. Brown comes back, I do think you can make it work. There are certain teams, like if you played another New England or another top man coverage team, you would probably struggle just because of the simple fact that you don't have guys that consistently just beat their guy one-on-one and put that threat on the defense. If you have good corners, we're going to struggle to win one-on-one consistently. But I do feel like with a healthy St. Brown, a healthy Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, I think we can make it work and be more effective. I don't think we'll be, maybe as good as we were at the beginning of the year with Chark, but I think we can be much more efficient than we have been. And there's different teams, right? Not every team has this good of a pass defense. Like Dallas has a very good pass defense, but that's something I would consider for sure. If there was a free agent about there, round pick could potentially give you another receiver that could be part of the future. I mean, I would consider it, but if they don't do that, which is probably most likely, then it's going to be important that they have a healthy St. Brown, because Chark isn't going to be back for weeks, and it doesn't sound like Jameson, at least another month for Jameson Williams. Again, we're talking closer to that Thanksgiving area. That pass right there did set up pretty much a 3rd and 7 for the Lions. It started off with a run like this, which was a negative 1-yard run, and that was key in this game. You could see it just by watching the film. It was key. When the Lions got behind the chains, that was not where they wanted to be, and specifically when the run game got you behind the chains. Now, I said coming into this, like, hey, I think it's going to be difficult to run the ball on this team because these interior guys, they're pretty darn good. Like, the numbers don't reflect. These interior guys play well. Teams attack them to the edge. They get them on the outside, which I loved how Ben Johnson utilizing jet sweeps, the wide receiver quick screens, the tunnel screens. I love that stuff, trying to get outside of the tackle box a little bit. But this was a difficult team to move on the interior, and I was curious to see how the Lions did it. Here you have a pulling offensive lineman. St. Brown does what a lot of teams do this. The receiver will kind of show, not actually get contact, and they're just trying to basically, I think, squeeze them inside. That way when Evan Brown pulls across, he can get this block. He doesn't get any contact here. And as you can see, he basically just runs around everybody. Lions try to do one of their misdirections, and it's a -1-yard run on this play. On this play, the Lions are going to get man coverage defensively, but actually the coverage beater, this is the 3rd and 7, comes from TJ Hockenson, and that's because of some confusion defensively that the Lions created. But there was some confusion over here. But I don't have a problem with that because they probably should have covered this up better. You can see they have 2 receivers here in the slot, Kennedy and Josh Reynolds, and in line they have TJ Hockenson. They're going to kind of like wheel them out and then sit them down in a curl route, and these 2 receivers run inside of those. Their routes are inside. So you see there's only 2 defenders here to play man, so they're going to drop 27 out to take basically an inside route, which would mean that you would think that they would have to pass it off, where, hey, the outermost slot cornerback is going to have to take TJ Hockenson, who kind of wheels himself around these 2 inside receivers. It's something that Goff doesn't go to over here. It can be a little bit of a tough thing for man coverage to pass it off and communicate that well. Here they don't, so he ends up being open, but Goff goes to the top of the route here to Khalif Raymond, who's one-on-one. He trusts his guy to win this one-on-one. Lions try to go to him a few times. I thought he had a big game. Lions were looking for him for matchups because of where they were at personnel-wise, and we'll probably see that going forward. But again, one thing we've seen on film is that in the past, without some of these guys, you do see Khalif Raymond, he usually wins his one-on-one. So even in this case versus Trayvon Diggs, he's going to look there to that one-on-one. Now, what's interesting is that they kind of disguise this a little bit, which makes it tough, and it allows, I think, Trayvon Diggs to make the play that he does. This single high middle safety is not going to stay here. He's not going to stay in the middle and protect this, which if he did, usually we would think maybe the outside corner is going to force this towards the inside, play some outside leverage, or just play him straight up. But in this case, Trayvon Diggs is basically going to play inside leverage and try to cut this thing off, which he does. Why does he do that? Well, this safety is going to sprint immediately out here. I guess if you want to throw some kind of double move or, fade route or something to Khalif Raymond, which you probably won't throw a fade to, but maybe a double move. If you want to try like a sluggo route or something, maybe the safety would have to take that away, and it allows Diggs to play inside leverage. So to me, it's really well done because you can't really see pre-snap that that's coming. But here, as Goff looks middle, again, taking the linebackers, trying to open up that space. The safety takes off towards the outside, and because he does that, look how Diggs plays this. Diggs sits inside leverage, and as he comes out of his break here, and I thought maybe Khalif did a little bit of his stem may have been a little bit angled inside, which kind of gave it away, but I think it was mainly because of Donovan Wilson, I think this is, taking off towards the corner, that he could play this type of coverage, and as he sits on this inside break from Khalif Raymond, it's an easy job for Diggs. He just breaks down on this one. It's not a bad place to go with the football, I don't think, but it's because of a little bit of a disguise there that they end up breaking this up at the catch point. So good play. I would say it's also a good job by Dallas on this one, disguising that a little bit. Second quarter, Lions trying to find their matchups. Here we go with the little motion here from TJ Hawkinson. They get Jaron Curse on him one-on-one, so you can kind of see by how they move around. You're getting a man-to-man matchup here again. When Jaron usually plays up on Hawk, usually you have man, so that's what this is. They stack at the top here. Now, I want you to notice with a lot of these, how many guys are not really open. Okay, there's a lot of plays that you see in this one when they go man that guys aren't open. Like, you kind of question, it's like, okay, maybe there wasn't time there to get it off, but at the same time, where was he going to go with the football, even if he had time? Like, there's a few of those. Bring a blitz on this play. So to me, I have no issue with him saying, look, first read, got to get it out quick. You know, when they bring a blitz, you're looking for your hot. On this play, this is a 5-man rush, so they are going to bring an extra defender. So you're looking for that, you know, first quick read. So he goes to his first option. He may have had Khalif on his, actually, he probably would have had Khalif on the corner route against Diggs, but again, why test him? And then at the same time, when they rush you, you don't really have a chance to do that. You're trying to get the ball in your hands, not take a sack. And he had to know that coming into this game because they were winning. I mean, this is one of the best pass rushing teams in football without even having a blitz. This time they bring a blitz, but they get Hawkinson easy here, one-on-one, boom, with the slant. And it's a big first down completion. But yes, the Lions were trying to search out that matchup whenever. And again, Dallas isn't a heavy man team. I couldn't find their exact rate, but I got to believe they played way more man in this game than they have. This is a team that plays man less than a quarter of the time. All right, it definitely seemed like they played much more of it in this game than they have in the past. And again, because personnel-wise, they can match up a little bit better. Now, this is a 9-yard pickup to Tom Kennedy. There's actually a roughing the passer that makes it more. So we're playing pretty well in terms of the passing game. We're being efficient. We're not getting big explosive plays. We don't really have that in this game. There's that play action one that we saw where they basically highlighted where no one was open. And at the same time, a big benefit for them, they have very athletic linebackers. Vander Esch, Micah Parsons, Barr. Like, they have athletic linebackers, and what makes it tough is that when they drop in the zone, they cover a lot of ground. Play actions, it's hard to get them to bite, and they can actually take away a lot of those deep crossers. That's beside the point. Goff is going to start to his left. Hawkinson and Jamal's going to run a flat. Hawkinson's going to run like a little curl route right here sitting down. This turns into zone coverage. So they're disguising a little bit here. I think you can kind of get a sense that this is probably zone by how they're lined up, but we can see this turn into man coverage as well. This is going to turn into zone. Let's take a look at how it does. Safety's going to drop out. They're going to drop into one of the kind of their like Tampa 2 type of looks. Vander Esch deep middle. You have 2 underneath defenders here. You actually have 4 in total. So they're going to drop into zone coverage on this play. Now, Goff starts left, all right, which potentially I could see if you think this is man coverage. Potentially this, I could see how this could cause some confusion. Sometimes it can, right? You have your outside corner, Hawkinson, if he goes middle and Micah does not drop, which in this case he's not, he's just going to rush, which he did a lot in this game. That's another thing to point out. There was a case where he did drop and the Lions, Goff rolled out and there was a flag, but usually he's rushing the quarterback from his side. So in this case, you know, if Hawkinson goes upfield, maybe you can get this cornerback to take that originally, and then you can get the flat. So sometimes you can cause some confusion there. But this could also be open against zone coverage as well. But in this case, it's not, right? They cover it up. They cover it up well. So Goff's first and second are not there. He comes back to the middle. Third read. You see, because of the zone coverage that they're playing, and again, they do this when they play their Tampa 2, their linebackers going deep middle, so it kind of turns into like 3 deep. So that's what they do. And in this case, when you have Khalif Raymond in the slot, I think that can be a little threatening there. And linebackers like, okay, I got to get some depth here that way he doesn't attack the middle on us. But in this case, he's not really going to do that. He's just going to sit down here, and then Kennedy's going to sit down. But because of how the linebackers dropping, these linebackers are not going to be as spread out because they also have to protect the middle of the field. So it's just a little bit different because of how they're doing things schematically. And when you have this curl route sit down the middle, he kind of takes the attention here of this linebacker. So as Goff goes through his reads, boom, okay, linebacker's here. Now Goff's like, all right, I got him. This is wide open, okay, because of course the outside corner who's underneath, he's taking the receiver. That's a 2-on-1 basically you're creating there. So you got a wide open Tom Kennedy. So that one's well done, all right? He got it off. He took the hit. Could get it through a little faster, but that's well done. That works, and it's not bad pass protection. This is actually the play that they ended up showing on the screen, so I thought I'd just show it one more time. You know, if anybody saw the replay, they showed this play, which is where they do this play action boot, and you can see for Jared Goff, there's like nowhere to throw the football. And again, we talked about Vander Esch. The athleticism that this linebacker has and their linebacker group has was very notable. Like you saw it against teams like Tampa Bay, how athletic their linebackers were. But here you get the play action. They bite a little bit, able to get back into coverage and cut off this deep crossing route. Even with that, though, he wasn't even open. Like there was no separation between Josh Reynolds and Trayvon Diggs anyway, so he didn't even need to be there, okay, because usually the Lions run this off and then you can get this one-on-one where the cornerback, he's an outside, but Josh Reynolds is not separating on this play regardless of what Vander Esch is doing. He doesn't like this flat, which I'm cool with. I mean, yeah, he could try to fire that in there, but odds are it's probably going to be picked off from throwing from that far away. Now, he could have threw it immediately, but he's trying to look downfield, and then he can come back to it, and in this case, as you see, it wasn't like it was uncovered. It was covered up. So you look downfield, right? You get this man matchup. You look downfield, second level. Okay, my guy, inside release. If he gets a step on him, I can lead him. Well, in this case, that's not the case, right? Because they are all over it. There's really nowhere for Goff to even throw this football. So you throw it away on this play. And that's just part of the reason why it's tough right now. The Lions, facing man coverage, have a difficult time at times. On this play, they bring the extra rusher, which is the safety, which Jamal seems to see a little bit late here. But he needs to at least get some sort of contact to probably just allow Goff to probably get the ball somewhere. Again, you're going to see there's really nowhere to throw this ball. They go into man coverage again defensively. This is basically within 5 yards. He may have gotten a 6 here with Hockenson, but he's being physical with Hawk off the line, basically just jamming him. Hockenson's not even going to get out of his break before Jared Goff is sacked on this play. You have a flat route here, which you could look there, but your first read is usually not going to be, let me find the flat, right? Because you're trusting that Jamal's going to pick this up. I could step up, try to hit Hawk coming out of his break. Obviously, the deep route, that one was the one that was actually wide open. But now he's seeing, okay, well, hey, Jamal's getting beat on this play, so you can't really look deep here. Khalif Raymond on this play beat Trayvon Diggs deep over top. We'll take a look at it one more time. Watch the safety on this play. You're going to see him bite down a little bit on the run fake. That creates what they're looking for. But the issue is right there as Jamal gets beat, Jared Goff can't step up and deliver the shot play. So this is one of those things where you say, okay, you had an opportunity for a shot play, 2nd and 5. That's when you look to take shot plays. They can't do it. On top of that, Hawkinson's not even running out of his break yet. He's still being jammed within 5 yards. He hasn't even got out of his break before Jared Goff is getting sacked. You have your flat route, but by the time you come back to that, you can't really throw it at this point. The best thing to do is throw it away, but he doesn't really have an opportunity to do it. You take a sack there. So, again, it was like, okay, we're struggling to get open consistently against man, but here's your opportunity for a shot play, and you have it, and you use Khalif. He's your speedster. They said they'd use him in some of the Jamison role while Jamison was out. Here's an example of that, but then you blow the block on that play. You really don't get any contact on him, and it turns into a sack. There's no opportunity there. And that's the time to hit shots on this team, right? You go into 3rd and 10, you're not going to hit a shot on this team very often because their pass rushers are just pinning their ears back. Look at the personnel they have on the field. This is when you do this. They're elite pass rushers, right? So this is when you do something like this. You're like, okay, our O-line can hold up. This is when we get our shot. We just need something here. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen. Really no chance on that play. So, again, you take the sack, puts you behind the chains. Not good. I wouldn't say it was the best game for Jamal Williams, just in the fact that you see that blown block and you see the fumble that he had at the 1, which we'll take a look at. It was some inopportune time that he had some of his bad plays. It was just it was bad timing. Where some of his mistakes came was very bad timing for the Lions. The 1.5 yard line, in that case on a shot play, bad timing. All right, here we are starting out of the second half. The Lions go out of the shotgun again. Here we go, tight end in line. They're going to go to TJ Hockenson, so they're trying to get that matchup. You can see Jaron Kearse is lined up, pressing across from him. So Lions are going to attack that. They utilize the play action, get these linebackers to bite a little bit. Now, what I like is the other angle to this one because, again, you're trying to find matchups, and in this case, you get TJ Hockenson one-on-one. The Lions are limited in trying to figure out which matchup that can win consistently, and they're just trying to create those. So I like how Ben Johnson does that, and they are willing to play a lot more man, it seems like, in this game. Again, I don't know the stats on that. He gets off the line cleanly, but I like the other angle to this play. Let's take a look at this one more time from the back angle, just to see how they created this. I like Hawks energy. I see you. But let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this back angle. So they pull Jonah Jackson. They do this all the time to sell the run big time for these linebackers. They get the eyes king on that. But let's take a look at the eye usage here, okay? So he's looking at Hockenson. He knows he wants to throw this over linebackers who are dropping and getting depth. It's tough to go over top. So watch Goff's eyes here, okay? You see where they're looking. They're looking straight across. Right there. You see that little, you see that little peek he tries to give right? Just to hold the linebackers for a second, he comes instantly right back to it to Hockenson. Just that little show right to try to create space for Leighton Vander Esch not to drop into this hole. Because if he stares this down, Vander Esch is so athletic, he's just going to be in the way. Take that away. And a lot of times in this game, as we know, the pass rushers get in there pretty quickly. You got to get your first couple reads. Like, they got to be there, okay? If they're not consistently, you're going to be sacked consistently. And that's what makes the combination tough, is that if you don't feel like you can win a ton of the matchups, when you're trying to create matchups, if TJ Hockenson is not open, or in that last play where he doesn't get out of his break, okay, now it's not there. Well, there's pressure already on me. So that's what makes it difficult. Here, Micah Parsons picked up by Jonah. Jonah is blown. It's a blown block. So in this case, if the ball doesn't go here, Jared Goff is getting sacked. I mean, that's basically where you're at here, right? If the ball doesn't go to where he's looking for this first read, he's probably getting sacked on this play. Less room to make mistakes. You have to be really good. You have to be really precise. And in this play, they were, but you can see how this could have got bad very quickly. But again, let's take a look at it, okay? Looking upfield, middle, and then there's the peak right. Okay, boom, and then I come right back to it for Hockenson. Big pickup to start the second half. That was well done. Fortunate is that as well as I feel like Goff has played to this point, which has been pretty consistent, right? Pretty precise. I mean, I can't say like, okay, he messed this up. Like, I can see, he's played pretty good at this point. Just keep it as simple as it is. But then there's the interception, and this is, it wasn't like, I wouldn't say this was a killer because it was at like their own 10-yard line, but it was unfortunate to throw an interception for sure. And you can see what they're looking for. I think two things here. Maybe Goff was drifting a little bit because he sensed the pressure from Micah and he didn't need to. That could have been the case. There's a couple little things. I'm not sure exactly what happened on this route. May have just underthrown the route. Josh may have ran a little bit differently than they had. I don't know. It looks a little weird, but I think the one thing that you can say with this route is that Trayvon Diggs plays this thing. I mean, just so well. Like, dude, he just looks so athletic, man. All right, let's take a look. Lions again, heavy personnel, 12 personnel. They go back with their play action. So they only got 2 receivers on this play. They're trying to set up this shot play, and you can see maybe he senses this is going to be some pressure. He can't really see it. That's his blind spot, so he can't really see that. So maybe he's just sensing that there's pressure here, and that's why he's falling back a little bit. Could have been the case, or maybe he was just naturally doing that. I feel like he was naturally doing it, but I'm not sure. So you're going to try to get this double move one-on-one with Diggs, all right? But they're in off-man coverage, and when you're doing that, of course, they're keeping their eyes on the quarterback. And Diggs, I mean, he's doing this really well, and he's not really threatened by his deep speed as much. You could tell he's not threatened that Josh is going to run by me. So he's got his eyes. He's playing this one pretty comfortably. Here comes the double move right there. He gets him to bite, all right, and then he breaks back outside where Goff's letting to go. Maybe the only thing is Goff probably could let this ball go maybe earlier on this play, which is difficult because if you let it go earlier, then it doesn't sell necessarily the bite as much, right? Because if he's letting it go before the guy even shows the fake, now Trayvon Diggs just playing the ball. And when you're playing off man, you're already watching the quarterback. I can't just throw the ball before the guy makes the break because he's just watching me. He's watching me, but he's also playing the man. It's tough coverage to do, but that's what he's doing. So it's difficult to just say, okay, we'll throw it earlier. I would say, if anything, maybe throw it further. But as he breaks back outside, look at Diggs. He doesn't flip around looking for the ball. And if Diggs flips around to try to find a ball, which a lot of corners would, this throw may have a chance because you can kind of drop it out here, basically back shoulder to Josh Reynolds, while the other cornerback's flipping around, getting on top of the receiver, trying to find a ball. However, Josh is running this like he's going to the end zone. Josh is running this like, hey, I'm going, right? But you can see he turns around. So, again, if this is where the receiver's flipping around, you can see how this would have a chance. He doesn't know. He just basically backs up, and he gets in the way of this one, makes a crazy athletic play. It's also just a fantastic play that Trayvon Diggs made, so I'll give him some credit. So we're coming off a big chunk play. I won't spend a ton of time on this one, right? Khalif Raymond gets the one-on-one here with Cursa in the slot. Pretty simple. He sells his route really well. Shows like he's going to break outside. Back to their play action. They're at the 48-yard line. And in this case, you don't want to get behind the chains on this team. Well, that's what happened to the Lions. So 6 offensive linemen. They're going to their jumbo personnel. They have Dan Skipper here. And we know that he basically just blows this block immediately. Doesn't really get a hand on him, which, you would think that you would expect that it would be better than that, right? As an offensive lineman, okay, get some hands on him. In this case, he really doesn't get a touch on the edge rusher. Also, because of where Jamal's at, he kind of cuts off Dan Skipper a little bit. But for the most part, he doesn't really get a touch on him. So that's basically immediate. And again, where do you throw the football in this play? Like, I don't really know where you go with it. Josh is just kind of like running like an underneath, looks like a curl route to be like a check down option. And here are your 2 deep looks is Khalif Raymond and Tom Kennedy. Khalif, maybe. Tom Kennedy, definitely. Like, you're not throwing this pass. I mean, that's going to be picked off. So maybe Khalif, I still don't know where that ball is going. So at that point, you're probably looking to check down anyway. But with that being said, doesn't have an opportunity to let anything really develop because it's a blown block immediately. This is an example of them actually going to man coverage against something that was kind of similar to what we saw earlier. Now, they're definitely lined up differently. Okay, tight end in line, Hockenson. You have running back Jamal. This is right after the sack. So they pick up 4 yards. Still not where you want to be. They wanted probably more on this, but they were trying to get like a probably 6-7 yard chunk and just beat their coverage potentially. This time you get man coverage. So again, similarly, Hockenson breaks up field, sits down, curl route, and then you run the flat with Jamal. This time it made sense to go this direction, and maybe this is something that they see on the tablet. I don't know, but you can definitely see how they line up, why this worked. And then again, it can cause confusion. So Trayvon Diggs, breaks inside with Hockenson, doesn't really notice the running back breaking outside. So then they switch this off to Jaron Kirsten. That's where you get the separation, is when they try to pass it off. They pick up 4 yards on that play. That's where you like Swift or something, where it's like, hey, maybe he can make something more out of that. But when you don't have certain weapons, you can't. This is the 3rd and 10, which you don't want to be in. Now, I could see how you could say, okay, maybe don't drift. Like immediately, he's kind of feeling that pressure and he's drifting, which we know Goff is willing to stand to take a hit, but he's kind of drifting immediately here. And I could see a scenario where maybe if he steps up a little bit, maybe he doesn't need to take off on this play, but I can definitely see why he does. He knows the route concepts, right? A lot of them are just sitting down the first down. They're playing off-man coverage everywhere across the board. Running back stays in the block. Hawk stays in the block. So, you know you got to get that 10 yards. I think it's 10 yards. It should be 10 yards that they need to get. And he knows the routes. You got to wait for them to get there. You can't just throw the ball, right? You got to wait for them to break and come out of it. They don't get out of their breaks by the time he's running out of the pocket. I could see where you would say, okay, because they bring the rusher here. Even if he does step up, we can't really tell. It's going to be difficult because, you know, they got the rusher on Craig here. Maybe he could possibly try to step through. We don't know what Mike is going to do if that's the case. So it's going to be difficult for him to stand in the pocket, right? Stool's beaten towards the outside. Maybe that doesn't show up as much if he goes up in the pocket instead of fading back to the right. But on this play, they pick up the stunt a little bit. So, yeah, maybe there's a case to say he should have stayed in the pocket on this play. Also, you're getting man in the back end, and I think Goff honestly thought that he might be able to run for this. And across the board, he might be thinking, I might be able to take off and get this thing. If he picks up it, they pick up their blocks, which he basically almost looks like he's telling them to block. I might be able to go get this. Clearly, that was not the case. He got ran down here, so he couldn't go get it. Maybe he thought he could. DeMarcus Lawrence was all over that. But, yeah, I could see saying, hey, man, you know, go up in the pocket a little bit on this one instead of taking off. I think he saw both linebackers. He's like, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go pick this thing up with my legs. Look, he's determined that he's going to go pick that up. He's like, oh, snap, I'm not going to pick that up. Now, Lions come back to, again, versus off coverage. Something that they did a little bit against New England. Here you go with just a quick curl route on the outside. This play is going to be called back. They're going to get a holding call on this one. This one was tough. We end up getting the first and next play anyway, but I thought I'd show it. Back into man coverage. Basically, Hawkinson, they're going to run this whip route. Khalif, you know, maybe you're looking for some confusion potentially here. That doesn't really happen. Evan Brown's beat pretty quickly by Micah Parsons, so Goff starts to move out of the pocket. So it wasn't like he just immediately moved out. He had to move because, again, there's nowhere really to go with the ball at this point. He can't stay in and throw this to Khalif. That's not going to happen. If anything, that would probably be picked, especially if you're moving this way. So you move outside the pocket, just trying to create off schedule, hits Hawkinson, but then there's a holding call, which I believe was on Evan Brown on Micah Parsons. Then they come back and pick up the first down. And in this case, you hold up in pass protection. This could be zone on this play, but I do believe this is just off coverage man again. They're trying to disguise with their safeties a little bit, and they're just watching the quarterback's eyes. So what you're seeing is they're going to bring a four-man rush. Actually, 90's going to drop out. I think it's 90. He's going to drop out, play underneath. You're going to get off-man coverage here. Now, the Lions have done this. They did it against Minnesota at the end of the game. They hit it again in this game, and it works against zone, where they basically run their dagger, boom, seam route, deep dig route. And then in this case, on the opposite side, they're going to run a deep curl route versus the off-man coverage. Now, it works this time. Goff uses his eyes well on this play, but I think he has a pretty good sense early, like, okay, they're in this. I'm looking to this side of the field. And the Lions have done a lot of this, where it's kind of like, okay, if they go to man, I can look to this side. If they go to zone, I can look to this side. And like I said, they hit it later in the game where they end up hitting the deep dig route. In this case, they hit the deep curl route, 3rd down and 13. Not the spot you want to be in. Lions probably, thank goodness they did not blitz here. Also, Penei Sewell does a really nice job in pass protection. Gets a little bit of help from the back there to kind of squeeze him inside, but good job holding up on this play. You're going to see how this ends up playing out. Let's take a look. All right, off-man coverage. You can see everywhere. Here we go, off-man, off-man. This safety shows like he's going to drop, like if it was two-man, but then he's going to dive underneath like a robber here and take the middle of the field away. Now, that doesn't really affect anything. If anything, it kind of just opens up a one-on-one here. As you're going to see, they're going to run this dagger concept, and then he's going to come back to it. By looking that direction, he ends up holding this safety. I think he also gets to tell the type of coverage that they're in, and that, okay, they're covering this up. Now, Diggs gets flipped around, but there's also the middle field safety here that would make this very difficult to complete. But then he comes back on time, on target, hits Khalif Raymond. I said Josh Reynolds. Hits Khalif Raymond for the first down. And I think that's also partly because, yeah, they play off, but at the same time, his speed is just so threatening that if you don't have safety up over top and they're just playing off man, which they can do on 3rd and long, his speed, you can see how threatening that is. That gets you on your heels very quickly, and because of that, he's able to just sit down in a man coverage window. I like Khalif. I like him a lot. I think this guy can be even more effective than he is, but you get good pass protection. They don't really bring many rushers. Goff's eyes start middle, and then you could see there's the peak left, and then he comes back to it, see what the coverage is, and he trusts your guy's going to be there. He almost dropped that, but he caught it. So on time, big time pickup. That was 19 yards on a 3rd down and 13. The tight end screen, which took us to the 1-yard line, which every time I watch, I'm like, how did he not score here? Okay, anyway. Gosh, it would have, hey, we could be talking about a whole different situation if he scores here. We could talk about a dub. But anyways, doesn't happen. Lions run a tight end screen. I like it. I just like to play the decision to run a screen, by the way, because, again, Micah Parsons, we don't see him drop a lot. Usually, he can, but usually when he's on the edge, he's rushing, especially in this game. That's what he was doing. He likes to get upfield. So you do all these jet sweeps, things like that. In this case, to use his tight end screen with the pulling offensive lineman and Jonah Jackson to really sell it. He gets upfield, and then you set up the tight end screen. I just think it was pretty well done. But just tell me this. How did he not score here? How do you not score here? I mean, doesn't that look like he's in? I don't know. He didn't score. But it's definitely worth noting, Micah Parsons, who overruns this play, gets back into the play and makes a touchdown-saving tackle, which basically gives their team the ball back. That is a crazy athletic play. I want to focus on this next play. because this next play was a fumble, which should not have happened. Jamal should have held onto the football. But on top of that, you can see where the blown block comes in, and this is Dan Skipper. Going again, jumbo package, extra offensive line. You got James Mitchell in there. It was cool to see him get some reps. They didn't really have to throw it to him. We ran some routes with him. I think we'll take a look at one if we're going to see one. But we didn't really throw it to him. But they run to the right here where they have the numbers. Okay, that makes sense. But Dan Skipper, watch this. He doesn't get any touch. He gets no touch on Lawrence here. See how he just completely whiffs? Well, that causes a whole string effect because, okay, now Hockenson, who's looking to possibly crash down, he's got a full defensive lineman that got no contact right there. So he's going to get no movement and crash down. He's hitting Skipper's guy, and they're going to kind of crash him and squeeze him inside and pull around. That does not happen. They're trying to get outside, which to me makes a ton of sense because, again, these interior defensive linemen, just running straight at them is difficult. They got some big dudes in there, which are going to be hard to run straight at. So I'm not mad at the decision, but you don't get any touch here on the edge. So as they try to do this and Dan Skipper whiffs, now you got this big guy that Hawkinson's like, oh gosh, I got nothing to do with this guy. So he's still there. Evan Brown comes around. Now he's still there, and he's in Evan Brown's way. Evan Brown can't get around. Now it's up to Brock Wright, who's just running basically right into him, and it basically caused a domino effect. That one whiff block, like 4 guys are ending up hitting the same guy. It caused a domino effect. Everything basically is shut off there, and then Jamal Williams drops the football right here. So he wasn't even expecting that to happen that quickly, and as you can see, yeah, that happened. It was absolutely the game changer. We know if he, scores, or we don't blow that block and we score, whatever, it was probably a whole different game. We might win the football game just based on how it's going. But they're down by 4 in this one. They get the ball back, have another opportunity. Let's take a look at how this one goes. So cover 1 man defensively here. But as we saw, the linebackers underneath, they like to pass off in zone coverage. So you get 2 crossing routes. This one is well done by Ben Johnson, who drew it up, and Goff executing this one. This was well done. You get kind of the overball route here from James Mitchell. But, and that one could come back to zone. Like if they're running zone coverage, you can come back and hit that. They're going to go to man, cover 1 man. Let's take a look at how they played this off. It's really well done. You got to have pass protection for this again, and Sewell gives you some pass protection here on the edge. Obviously, Goff steps up in the pocket here, but let's take a look at how they do this. So it's all about Goff's eyes, because as the linebackers pass this off, Goff's eyes really sells this, okay? They drag Khalif with his speed already. That's attention for a linebacker. You're like, okay. So here we go. They cross. He's passing it off to Van Der Esch. Van Der Esch is probably passing it off to 42. I think that's Bar. I don't remember. Anyways, they pass it off. Here's the crossers. Goff's looking left. Now he comes back middle, okay? This linebacker sticks with it for a second, and he lets the crosser go, and now here you go. You have a wide open Brock Wright. And again, if you're like, well, who's this guy? Well, that's Trayvon Diggs, but what's happening here is Diggs is playing man coverage. So it's hard to cover 2 crosses underneath. This is why they use their linebackers to pass this off. Schematically, the Dallas Cowboys like to play off coverage with their corners, as we've seen. So they utilize their linebackers underneath to help with the underneath routes, and then they can keep the one single eye safety. So the Lions basically just attack what the Dallas Cowboys like to do schematically on this play against a cover 1 defense by attacking those linebackers that are passing off. But in this case, he's trailing in man coverage, just like 6 is taking James Mitchell, but the linebacker is responsible for Brock Wright. But they're passing everything off in zone. So you're beating their coverage and how they're utilizing their underneath linebackers. Goff holds his eyes, steps up, and flips it out there late. That wasn't like, oh, he came back too late. No, that was just the timing of the play was well done and executed well. We'll take a look for the other angle. They created a chunk play here basically by just attacking what they like to do defensively. And that's well done. We'll take a look. So here we go. Start left. Then he comes back middle. Steps up looking at it. Linebacker holds. Yeah, that was Barr. And then he flips it out there to Brock Wright for a 20-plus yard gain. Coming off this big 23-yard gain, you have a run that goes for -2 yards. So now that puts you behind the chains. They try to run the James Mitchell side. He gets no push basically on this linebacker. And it forces, as you can see, Justin Jackson right here to cut back. He's cutting back to a free defender. And you lose 2 yards on first down. Then you come with an incomplete pass. Let's take a look at that one. So now it's 2nd and 12. You get an incomplete pass. This one is what I would classify as a drop. Well, in this play, they're going to be running like a cover 3 cloud right, I believe this is. 6 is going to drop. 2 is going to drop on this play into the deep thirds. Now this is an incomplete. I would classify this as a drop. You can see Goff starts to roll right. I don't know if this is because of the late rusher that comes through. So again, that could have been by design to try to move the linebacker that's going to drop out here 42 to move him outside. Once you see him drop off the line, try to pull him outside by moving that way. They run like a wheel route. This is covered up well. Okay, there's like no confusion on this one. The cornerback just drops and gets depth, and no one's dragging the middle because of zone coverage. Good job by both Kennedy and Hockenson sitting down the zone. They're both running crossing routes. They both sit down the zone. Now, as Goff starts to move right a little bit, I would say he's still basically in the pocket. He could probably throw this to Kennedy, but it's not the easiest one. Also, Decker's getting beat here by Micah, so if he holds this any longer, he's probably getting sacked. But to me, I would classify this as a drop. He throws over the middle to Hockenson, and look, we trust you to make those plays. Like, go above and beyond, right? You're supposed to be that guy, and I get it. Sometimes you don't have him, so I'm not like, oh, this is Hockenson's fault we lost. Like, no. But this is a pass that you expect him to catch that pass. I expect him to catch this ball. I do, okay? So you hold this linebacker outside. He creates some space. He comes back to him. I would expect him to catch that ball. He doesn't catch it. Now you're in 3rd and 12. The spot that you really can't be in. And this one is just weird to me, but again, it's kind of telling you where your options are at. 3rd down and 12, not a spot you want to be in. They can just play off-man coverage and basically sit on the sticks. And that's kind of what they do here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They bring 5 rushers. They bring a blitz on this play. There's the pressure for Goff, and this ball is picked off. And they're deep curls and basically just sit down. Khalif Raymond, he would be the guy to look to here. Again, now you don't really want to test Trayvon Diggs. He would be the guy to look to probably on this play because of the separation that he can create. But that takes too long to develop. This play, Goff does stand in the pocket, but you get a stunt. You get a stunt from 56 around towards the inside. There's where your pressure comes in. Evan Brown and Jonah Jackson, they don't get a clean pass off here in pass protection. So now here's your rusher inside. So Goff's got to try to avoid that. There's the pressure, right? And now, he may not have gotten sacked, actually, if you would have held this a little bit longer. But you can't just be like, well, I may not have actually gotten sacked. In his shoes, you got to get that ball out of your hands, right? It's 3rd and 12. Okay, I got to get this thing on my hands. And I don't think it doesn't have potential. I think the issue here is that I don't know what the route is or how they're teaching them to run this, or, you know, if they want them just to break outside. Usually against zone, which we see, is the receiver will break the curl, and then he'll start to kind of float away from the defender. In this case, Tom Kennedy is breaking this dig down on the inside, and then he kind of gets pulled outside, and as Goff throws it inside, it's picked off. Not completely sure, but look at this. First off, your slot cornerback, because of you're playing cover 1, safety's jumping down to take Craig Reynolds out of the backfield. This outside corner is forcing it towards the deep middle safety for Tom Kennedy. He's forcing that, so he's playing outside leverage. So you have a slot corner playing outside leverage. Tom Kennedy sits down. Inside, you would think of the cornerback with outside leverage. Okay, sits down, creates that space. As Goff throws this inside, Tom Kennedy gets like pulled or starts to fade outside for whatever reason, and that's when the ball is basically jumped and picked off. Now, Goff threw it low, which if you take a look at it, if Kennedy stays where he is, it's almost like, hey, I'm trying to throw it away from the defender a little bit, right? I think pressure had something to do with that, but you could be throwing that away from the defender. I'm going to low, down, away. That's where the ball is going to go. He starts to kind of work outside of that, and as you can see, it's picked off as he basically just gives up the inside. I don't know why. Maybe that was part of the route. Maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure, but that's what I see on that play. We'll take a look at it from this angle. There's the pressure. We'll take a look at it. Steps up, moves, and he fires it, and you can see Kennedy's now outside, and it's picked off. So definitely not the best throw, but at the same time, when you're seeing just how he's moving, it's like, okay, it looked like intentional, but I don't know. At that point, that basically did the game in because now you had under 3 minutes, you're down by 11, and just based on how the game was going, it was like, all right, we're not coming back. I mean, it just kind of felt like that, like, okay, we're not going to come back in this game, and that's kind of where the game felt like it was at. Like, here we go. This was not bad. This is when you run a whip route to T.J. Hockenson, and I like it because, again, they're playing man coverage, and what's nice is that when they're playing man and their linebackers are playing this zone coverage underneath, that you kind of have that window between, but you're also getting the type of coverage from the defense. So the cornerback is trying to get outside here, so with this whip route, now there's this hole to throw it into. I think that's nice. Take a look at it. They're kind of disguising their coverage a little bit here. I think this is one where you would say, okay, you would like to pick up, I would like Goff to pick up on potentially with this coverage. He's not going to know what it is, but this is probably zone before the snap. I would like him to. But, again, it's hard to do that because you don't know. But they're going to disguise here. They're going to drop back into like their Tampa 2 defensively. Now, the guy that had the chance to catch this ball would have been T.J. Hockenson. And maybe he did recognize that they were dropping in his zone coverage. Because if you look at it, he starts with Hockenson probably to try to hold this defender and say, okay, I'm going to come back and hit Tom Kennedy if I can squeeze him inside. And usually they do this. They'll have two guys sit down like deep curls and then you can kind of pick between the two. We saw this earlier this year. So this is not a new concept the Lions are trying to run. But with the pressure, doesn't really have a chance. Plus, Tom Kennedy wasn't open as he tried to look at Hawk and then maybe come back to Kennedy. Is like, okay, the attention is going to go to Hawk. I'll put my eyes there first, take this cornerback who's in zone coverage, and he's watching me. If he squeezes down here on Hockenson like he starts to, maybe I can hit it back to Kennedy, or maybe fake it and then come back to Hawk. I don't know. Obviously, 42 stuff. Probably the best option would have been to immediately just throw it to Hockenson, right? But again, with 42 here and that pressure, doesn't really happen. Hockenson hasn't come out of the break yet. Because this is a zone drop, yes, it probably would have worked out better if you'd have went Kennedy then Hockenson, but he has to look off one of the two. It's very difficult to just drop back and throw it to one of the two without that being in harm's way. So using his eyes, usually how they like to utilize this, but the pressure is the killer. Where if it's like, okay, they're in zone coverage, we'll look at this side of the field. Lions like to do this against zone. Tom Kennedy, the defender's right in the way, so this one does not have an opportunity. I don't know if he ran it at the wrong distance or if that was a little off. I'm not sure. Either way, it was just covered up. That's what we see. If he'd have went left immediately, he would have had a chance against this Tampa 2 zone because of the fact that you have the high-low going on, so you could swing this out to the flat, maybe try to make a guy miss and pick up some extra yards. No one's going to love that at this stage of the game, but you could try it. Or you have the deep curl route that obviously is open. This could have been more of a man thing. It's like, okay, if they're in man coverage, we'll run the deep curl. And, of course, if we run the deep curl route, again, for Khalif Raymond, usually he's backing the cornerback far up. And then we could potentially swing it out here to Craig Reynolds because the linebacker has to get out here. Someone's got to get out there or he'll be wide open. So I think that could have been like, okay, zone, I'm going to go this way. But in this case, as you can see, there's not much of an opportunity here. And then he tries to throw it late. Looks like he was trying to throw that thing to Khalif Raymond, or this thing to Khalif Raymond, but does not happen. Takes the sack, and it's also a fumble. Where they run their dagger concept, as you can see, this time they run a crosser, so you can see it here. And as you can see, they're in zone coverage. They go to that Tampa 2 defensively, and this works out because, of course, you got your safety, you got your deep, which is usually the linebacker, and then you have another deep safety out here. But this one works because of how you pass this off. They're both running vertical stems. They can't really pass this thing off fast enough, so you're able to kind of throw it into that hole. So I thought I'd just show that one before we ended this. It's attacking that Tampa 2 coverage that we've seen with the dagger concept, but of course at this point in the game it really didn't matter. And this underneath crosser kind of held the attention of the linebacker here. I like the Lions play designs. For receiver, I don't think the Lions are going to make any moves. I don't think it would be wrong to make a move to get another receiver, potentially someone that also could be part of the future. I don't know if there's anybody out there available right now that you love that idea with, but if there was a guy you had an eye on, I wouldn't have an issue with making it because I'm not in the boat of like, I get it. You're not very good, so why make trades? I get it. But at the same time, I'm not in the boat of like, hey, these coaches are good to go no matter what. I've already voiced my opinions on that. And I don't think, you gotta earn it to a degree. And I don't know where that is for Sheila. She trusts these guys, and I get it, right? I do. I'm glad she does, right? She got these guys. But at the same time, like, it's not one of these things where I'm just like okay with it. And I feel like getting another receiver would be very beneficial because you're going to play teams that can play some man coverage and make it difficult. With that being said, though, getting St. Brown back will be huge for this team. Hopefully Chark at some point and J-Mo at some point because those guys, they just win on the outside. And St. Brown's nice, but he doesn't really win on the outside like that. And the Lions started to use him outside, and they can attack coverage. They can attack zones. This is one of the best pass defenses in football, and we had the opportunity right there at one, if it wasn't for the fumble, to win this game. I mean, that's the play that you circle and be like, that was the play of the game. But it is what it is. That was it, and I thought we'd just take a look at it in this one. I would say the one thing for sure is Goff kind of fading out of the pocket when they get a rusher from an off-ball linebacker position would be the biggest thing they emphasize. I think even Dan touched on that. But aside from that, I don't really have a problem with how he played in this game. Obviously, he could have helped us a little bit more at certain spots, but it was mainly that third and long where he kind of just started to move out, and he could have potentially stuck in there and delivered. But aside from that one, didn't have a ton of problem with how he played the game. The Lions' game plan is much more conservative. I mean, this team literally ran the ball every play before halftime. They didn't even want to try, which I was cool with. It made sense in this game. I had no problem with it. But yet, what it came down to is you had the ball at the one, you fumbled, and obviously there was more game after that, but then you got to stop. So game could have been completely different if you score there. Didn't score there. Couldn't get in the third and long against this team. Too many times Lions had negative runs, flags on first down, whatever it was. You get yourself behind the chains, and then it's just like, dude, we don't have the weapons, and they have a great pass rush. It's not a good recipe for us, and too often that happens. Definitely think the Lions are going to get this thing back on track offensively for sure, especially when they play defenses that aren't this good. Like, New England play really good man with the best of them, and this team is just one of the best pass defenses in football, so it's understandable. They're a tough defense. They've been tough to everybody this year. They haven't, like, Dallas has won them football games without a starting quarterback, so obviously we knew they had a really good defense, and that was the case, and we're a little bit decimated, which every team is, so it's not an excuse, right? You have to figure out a way to adapt, but this is one of the best defenses, and, we had an opportunity, but you can't blow, an assignment on the block when you have your one shot play. It was the same thing as last year. When you're limited on weapons and you have an opportunity to dial up a shot, you can't blow a block. You can when you can get shots more often. When you have Chark out there and St. Brown and Swift and you have more weapons and you're like, hey, we're going to get 5 or 6 legit shots down the field in this game. That's different. You can make a mistake on a couple of them because you're going to have more opportunities. When you get 1 or 2 and you blow a block, it's like, dude, we don't have that many opportunities, especially in this game. You can't. We had too many big-time mistakes at bad moments, and it was like, well, that's going to get you beat, man. So definitely think they'll get it back on pace, though. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.